we're gonna spend the last 14 minutes here, maybe 13 minutes, showing some of our stuff. So Cal, get locked and loaded. Before we do that, I'm just gonna share my screen for a second because not everyone knows everything about who we are. So just like if you're not sure, cmBuilder is a fully web-based solution. So it's all running in the browser. Everything you saw today. We launched it in September of 2020. We've got about 320 customers, over 10,000 projects done to date. Some of them that you saw today, which are fantastic. Very global customer base. About 65% is North America, but lots outside of North America, which is great to see customers doing things in other parts of the world. And we're really proud that we have over 50 educational institutions on the platform too. So we have an academic program where we help support the curriculum for engineering students going through construction engineering or whatever, and then they go out into the world and hopefully have those skills that they can bring to their workplace. So that's a little bit about what the platform is all about. Cal, go ahead and share your screen. Instead of just showing you slides of things we plan to do in the near future, we're going to attempt to turn it into a story. So Cal is a superintendent. He's got to plan a job. I'm maybe one of his sub-trades. He can beat me up on site. Just kidding. No one would ever do that. Right, Wally? No, you never beat up a sub-trade. Just kidding. Just joke. So yeah, we're going to work through this. The first thing we want to talk about is just the ease of use of adding your model. So you added RVT support, IFC. We have geolocation in there. So if you have geolocation already in the model and you have your geolocation set up inside the project, it will geolocate in the position that it needs to be based on the EPGS code or whatever it is. But right now, first thing we're going to do is we're just going to dump in a structural model. Okay, so throw it in there. All right. So even if it's not geolocated, like in this case, very easy to position a model. So you can just use a local reference from a drawing, or or just that overlay from the satellite view. Position the model with coordinates. Now, one thing as Cal's doing this, he's going to locate the structural model, and if you have additional models, architectural models, MEP models, you can snap the models to the first one. So if you don't have it geolocated from the file, you can just locate a model and snap all of them to there, okay? So you get the idea. So for those who don't know, you just got Revit models or SketchUp or BIM models from the design team, you just dump them in there, right? So let's switch to the next one, Cal. So now we're going to do a bit of a 6-week look ahead, right? So we're going to do a micro simulation. So we got that model. We've got maybe a drone flight. Thank you, Ben, who's on the call for some of this data that we were using to death. Okay, so we have this simulation where we need to think about how we're going to plan the next 6 weeks of work. And with that, Cal, why don't you take it away and think about working through a bit of a plan here and what you're trying to show with a schedule, pour breaks, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have here so far is just like a preliminary schedule. You can think this could be for a tender for your initial schedule. But as you start thinking about this job a little bit further, you kind of got to think about doing pour breaks, getting the quantities of the concrete you need on a particular day, as well as just the more nitty gritty of the how you're going to pump the concrete, which might not be relevant for a tender. So what I'm going to do here is first just split the concrete into different pour breaks, and we use this to plan. Actually, first I'll create the milestones. My apologies. But yeah, I'll just open up my schedule here on the right side, and I'm just going to break all of these pours from my preliminary schedule into 2 different breaks. I'm just creating these milestones natively inside the platform rather than linking it with a schedule, which we will do after the fact. But we have our pour slab on grade, and just select 3 dots, add milestone before.
While you do that, Cal, I'll talk so that you don't have to worry about talking and clicking. So the use case here is that you may start with a preliminary schedule, but the superintendent now has to take, say, a structural model from a structural engineer that's not split in any way, shape, or form, and start thinking about micro planning around pour breaks and stuff like that. So what Cal's going to do is it allows you just to quickly add manual milestones, right? So say, okay, let's take the slab on grade, and let's turn it into 3 milestones, or 2 milestones, let's say, right? So just adding manual milestones. So now we have a linked schedule plus some manual milestones, and we're teasing what the new feature is going to come soon. So stay tuned.
Awesome. So now I'll jump through. I have those 3 milestones, just breaking it up into 3 different pour breaks. So I'm just going to jump up to, it doesn't really matter to tell you the truth. I'll jump up to L3 columns, and I'm just going to select my structural model, right click, edit BIM model. I'm going to show off the new split feature just to plan out our pour breaks. I can hop into our split functionality. You can say yes, split elements. First thing we got to do is just select the objects we need to split. A bunch of different ways to do that. I'm not going to dive into all those right now. We can use the tree. I'm just going to do a selection trap vertically through the model. And we have 4 slabs selected, we can see. For the splitting object, we can now just create our sketch, which is going to define the split. I'm going to create that right on the L3 slab. Interesting, we could have made a vertical sketch to split columns. Often structural engineers won't split their model, so that's very useful in that application. And we can do this split however we like, of course. We're just doing a bit of a unique little jag there. And as typical, you're going to want to actually position these lines based off 3D elements. So I'm going to take that line, I'm just going to snap it to the edge of this column. So it's going to be perfectly flush with the vertical elements of our concrete pours. Oops. There we go. And we'll make that one a little bit farther out here. And also when we're thinking about our pump truck or our placing boom placement, or maybe a tower crane, a hoist, whatever the case might be, we need to plan for slab openings. So I'm also just going to create a small slab opening, which we will extend our climbing placing boom throughout our construction project. We can select confirm, get a little preview of those slabs, and select confirm there.
Yeah, so the big use case here is like it's a big thing with the way BIM models are created for the purposes of design versus the purposes of construction. Previously, you had to kind of go split things outside of cmBuilder. Now you'll be able to just split directly in your browser, split the slabs into any way you want. And then the next thing we're releasing, hopefully in the next few weeks, is that if you do model revisions, say through the integration of ACC or otherwise, right now it doesn't propagate. You have to resplit, but coming soon it will keep the history. So if you update with this a new model, it's actually going to keep the same splits, right? And then also allowing you to split open geometry, so like imported drone scans or survey data. So right now it only works on closed geometry in BIM models for V1. V2 coming soon, you'll be able to split meshes and like remove the ground from, say, a drone mesh or something like that. So you don't have to do that elsewhere in another software.
Perfect. So I'm just going through and resequencing these elements. Of course, we have more slab elements than we had before. So I'm just going to sequence those in with our new schedule. So we can get that pour break sequence that we're looking for. That one in here. And just for the sake of now, I'm just going to hide these placing boom slab chunks from our model. And just easy as that, we can hop through our simulation now and see the sequenced north-south pour breaks along with that placing boom opening. Now that we have that completed, we can actually, just for the sake of the storyline, let's see we're planning this real time. We're creating our pour breaks, getting the quantities from that. Our scheduling department, on the meantime, is updating our schedule. So once they've created that, we can now relink those milestones we've already created to the updated schedule. And that kind of allows both departments, scheduling and the superintendent in this use case, to work independently and kind of merge their work as they go forward. So we have that same sort of sequence built out here with that level 1, level 2. What we can do is we can just go into our project schedule. We can scroll down just to prove we have our north slab on grade, our L1 north not linked. And this is based off our preliminary schedule. I can really quick go into update schedule, upload file. I'm going to bring in our new updated construction schedule. This is the same schedule that's been updated, so all the pairing IDs match. I don't have to get too into the nitty gritty. And we can just scroll down to our concrete pours and see that we have these new north pour slab on grade, which I'll just add in, our north pour L1 and our north pour L2. I think there's actually a slab infill as well. Yeah, oh, that one's already brought in. We can now select next. We just scroll down through, and this is the new schedule integration feature where we can actually link existing milestones to new tasks from our schedule. So we see we have our north pour slab on grade. We can just drop this list down and link it to the correct task. So we can then update the schedule going forward as inevitably dates change or there's delays on site. We can just relink this to the schedule, and all these dates are going to update automatically going forward now.
So I'm going to talk while you click through those. So basically the use case here is you got a plan, there's a schedule. Well, the super gets involved, the PX gets involved, and they start breaking down that into a smaller plan or more detailed plan, the big feedback we got from planning department is, hey, it'd be nice to be able to send that back out from cmBuilder to the scheduling department, tie that into over a master schedule, and that's great. So now you can currently do that, but coming back into cmBuilder to make sure that those two are linked and properly updated was the new feature, right? So this is a bunch of new stuff coming on schedule integration and like the 4D side of things, but that's what we're showing today. So next, Cal, we gotta think about how we're gonna tie this into a simulation and make it pop, just like Carla was saying in those pursuits and those early planning to make the client look good. What's new in terms of presentation mode visuals?
We got growth profiles, which is a pretty handy tool to show concrete or any element for that matter. I like it best for concrete to be growing during the milestone. And we can apply that to any elements. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna click on our entire structural model. Oh, I actually have already searched slab, so it just selects the slabs from our structural model. I can just right click, edit BIM element. And again, you could apply this to any model element. We can go into presentation visuals and we can set different rules. So either new construction is going to be applying this rule to anything on the first milestone. It appears demolition will be the last milestone. You guys are probably familiar with the highlight color where it's going to show up as green, that first milestone. However, now we have the addition of growth profiles, so we can have it grow vertically or grow horizontally or grow downwards, depending on what the use case is, of course. For our slabs, we're going to go growing horizontally and leave that on. I'll select done there. And I'm just going to put one on the columns as well. Using a keyword search, a million ways to select all the columns, but that's one easy way. Same idea, we're going to go new construction. Show that as green and growing up for the columns. So we also can throw in a placing boom. So I just threw that in our location where our slab opening was. And we can now just progress through these milestones. I'm just going to actually extend it as we grow our tower vertically. Of course, you can get much more creative with this and adding visual programming and some rotations as we go up.
We're running out of time, Cal. So let's figure out how we make the presentation and make it pop.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, next thing we can do is we can actually. Is there something else I'm missing, or are we just sharing the link here?
Yeah, so I think show it in presentation mode. Actually, maybe you can generate show in presentation mode what it's going to look like. We'll share a link to you guys, so anyone on your side can actually run the link yourself, and then we'll talk a bit. We'll probably stay a couple minutes past the hour. Obviously, if you got to go, you can run. We'll talk a bit more about some of the link dashboards and improved commenting and the trench work. But hey, why don't you show what it looks like once it's in presentation mode?
Sounds good. I'm going to start midway through to save us the first couple of slides, and we can see those growth profiles coming up for the vertical elements and the horizontal elements growing left to right. And the green is optional. We can do the growth profiles without the green color, just depending on your preference.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like a presentation quality type thing where you can really start highlighting how things are going to be built, say from north to south, east to west, show progression throughout the milestone as opposed to just hide show, and just kind of bring that all to life. So maybe Cal, if you want to just share it, why don't you share that link to that and starting at that milestone right there. So before he does this, actually do it first if you don't mind. You share that link. And for those who don't know, in presentation mode, this is a little bit different, the UI here. So you can choose to share from just a certain milestone, or you can start from the beginning. So we're going to share it from that first milestone. You can share it in presentation mode. You can also customize the presentation mode link to have logos, colors, the timeline on the bottom. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do with that. But if Cal pops this in the chat, this is a link that we can this is a link that can be accessed by anyone. So to answer Lufat, you can in that export share. There's also one to create a video. Okay, so if you want to click on that link there, you can let it load and run. It'll show you what it looks like. And then if you go back, coming soon as well, hopefully this week or next, if you click on export and share, we're adding the ability to have analytics on these shared links. So if you click that share dashboard there, yeah. So it's going to pop up all the links that have been shared on the project. when they've been accessed, when it expires. You may need to kill a link for any good reason. So let's just say you've shared a link that you don't want to have active anymore. Maybe the pursuit's over or something like that, and it was made an error. You should delete the link, and it just gives you some analytics on how that shared link is being used. So that's at the scenario level and at the project level as well. Cal can also quickly, if you go into the comments, maybe don't tag me just because we're running out of time, but we're adding the ability to have more like a thread like in the commenting. So, adding screenshots and saving camera angles and being able to make threads more in the commenting section. So if you haven't played around with commenting, I suggest giving it a shot. You can tag anyone that has access to your company by just like tagging them. And then you can just like kind of work through those kind of we call asynchronous collaboration, right? So if you don't have ability to work in multiplayer mode at the given time, you have asynchronous collaboration there as well. And then actually we're condensing this a little bit than our perfect story where we had Cal. So we're off the script here, buddy. But like let's talk about Cal. You just got a call from the owner. You're going to do district energy. You've already built half the structure, but now you got to tie into district energy. How are you going to do this?
Awesome. So we would have to do a trench for that. And we have some milestones already created conveniently around here. So we have our utility trench. Oops, we have a version that doesn't have the trench already in it. Basically, with the new trenching tool, you're just going to be able to use a center line to create a trench by defining the profile, whether you have slope walls, the depth of that trench, and you also can apply a slope bottom. So if you have your sanitary coming in, you're going to need to maintain a 2% slope or whatever the case might be. We can just go into our terrain excavation operations, and we can see this new trench functionality and click trench. I could sketch this yellow line. That would be a totally fine way to do it. However, I already have that yellow line, which I'll use for the actual utility route as well. So I can just project it as well, just to speed the process up a little bit. I can then select confirm with that center line I created. I can define the bottom of the trench. I can define the trench width. So maybe I'll just make it 5 feet.
And while you're doing this, there's some really interesting. So you can slope the bottom of the trench. The elegance of this is that you just sketch one polyline and it generates everything automatically. So if you were using our existing excavation to do trenches, it was a bit tedious because you kind of got to like everything had to be closed to do the excavation. Whereas this is just based on a polyline, and then it's just all parametric from there. So it's really, really, really slick. Grab your trench boxes. So yeah, just if you this I used to when I was spending some time on site, this was something that came up very commonly. It's like, okay, we're using district energy. You need to like show how you're going to tie into an existing building coming off the street and stub in, and like what are the logistics around that. You have to do some excavation, you have to do traffic management, and this just makes it like really fast and easy just to store that then and go from there. So we had planned to do this and then have you refresh your column and all that stuff, but it didn't. We ran out of time. So yeah, that's kind of like the what's new, what's next around this kind of workflow at the moment. We have plenty of other things that we're working on, but this is what we intended to show today. So it's a bunch of schedule improvements, more improvements to split functionality, keeping the history log from revisions of models, splitting open meshes. We talked about the growth profile to be to just bring that simulation and make it pop as opposed to just hide show. And we talked about commenting and improving our whole collaboration workflow. We didn't talk about it today, but we're also going to have we call it advanced duplicate. So if you have multiple scenarios, one person's using one scenario, one's using another scenario, you'll be able to group, like last we select a bunch of stuff and just copy it into another scenario. So that'll be able to save a lot of time. If you have like two scenarios going in parallel, you get to the end, you realize you're going to go with plan A, but you don't have to reproduce some of that work you liked in plan B. You'll be able to just push it over. And then the share link dashboard. So just both from controlling links, but also controlling the analytics around what you're sharing.